Hey guys, we've got some important information to share with you in regards to a few factors on the front of these HILUXs. Obviously to do with these bash plates, to do with drive shafts, CV joints braking, factual information. Some people insist on arguing the point, so we've got to go the next step like usual and show the evidence, the reasons why. Most people know just to trust what I say now. All the smart people subscribe, the bell's on, they hit the like button, all the regulars. Do you really want to still stay disadvantaged and miss out on some of this information? If you want the correct information, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe bell on and all that now, so that you can at least have the opportunity to review the information I provide and you can work out whether it's right for you or not. So these bash plates, or under body protection or under vehicle protection, whatever you want to call it, from K-On, 700 grade steel, very strong, light and strong because it's 3mm, but it doesn't bend. You can see from, we've given it absolute pounding on the rocks, bouncing in, banging and crunching, kind of like on purpose. You know, some of these areas, that even in the, I'll agree in the view, it looks like a dent. There's no dent there, that's flat. The only thing we got here, the coating has been absolutely ripped off. As I said, a very rocky track, and we gave it a very hard time, driving like a teenager, and I'd say probably about 13 by the looks of that bash plate. Not good, don't do that. So what happened also, we broke a drive shaft over here on the driver's side, and I'm going to show you the reasons why, but I'm also going to show you the solution. That's what this part of this video is about. So if you've got a HILUX, stay tuned, but even if you've got a Prado or any other make or model, the information I provide could be relevant to you and your vehicle, and you might want to do some checks. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to reposition the camera a bit closer, soon as a lot of people won't believe me, and I'm going to take a measurement. The hoist, the vehicle is on the stops on the hoist, and it isn't going to move for this exercise. And I'm going to take a measurement from the floor level to the middle here and tell you what it is, because we've got a replacement plate here with the diff drop, and I'm going to show you exactly how much clearance you will or won't or may lose by showing you those measurements. We'll also show you some more measurements on the bench, and then the next most important measurement before we take that off, I'm going to show you the difference between the level of the driver's side and the passenger side of the diff, and why the passenger side on the HILUXs is the one that usually breaks the CV. Okay, we've got the Dobinson suspension in the front, the 220s, that is the correct listing. In my opinion, they're borderline, they're absolute maxed out or borderline on being a little bit too long. The passenger side's good, but the driver's side's the problem, and it's not because of the suspension, it's more because of the diff mounting position from factory. And if we're going to improve it, we may as well improve it a bit extra. Now let's get in there and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so a quick visual, this is the passenger side. You can see the CV, that angle there, not too bad. That angle there, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? That's not bad, okay? That is actually quite good. It's at full extension, okay? That's a little bit longer than usual. Let's come over this side. You can see there's a little bit more angle on this one. I don't know if you can actually see it, but there's more angle on that one. Every millimeter extra extension, or every millimeter of this diff being in a different position, increases the angle on the inner side of this driver's shaft exponentially. There you go, there's a word. Well, what does that mean? Anyway, let's get I'm going to get the ruler out while we've got the bash plate on, because the bash plate's quality and level and flat. I'm going to take a measurement for you from the edge of that bash plate there to the edge of that diff at each side, and my money's on there being at least 10 millimeters difference, and bingo, there's your problem. And a lot of people will go, oh wow, this Anthony guy, he's right again. Oh, you know, like, this Anthony guy, he knows stuff. He worked this out over 10 years ago. He told people there, but of course we didn't have the platforms we have. We weren't on YouTube. We hated Facebook like everybody hates Facebook. We hated Facebook, but then we made our own Facebook. Do you get it? We don't go on everyone else's groups and pages. It's just a platform we use. We're just Anthony Prado Forby. We're not, you know, we've got groups for what we had for lunch, but you might not want to see what we had for lunch and all the other crap that goes on. So you just join the group that you want, right? In this case, Oz HILUX Crew would be the one if you're in Australia. Okay, so what we're going to do, so this is a new shaft in case you missed it. New shaft, new inner seal and all that. See, bone dry, clean. It's been out in the paddock again. I nearly got bogged one other time. We're out cleaning up some old fence and we stopped at the wrong spot and it sunk in, and luckily we just dropped the tyres to 10 psi full drive and drove out of it with these KO2s. We love the traction of those, but anyway, it's not about that. Let's get set up for this measurement. Exciting moments of truth. Here we go. I hope you can see what's going on. Here's the light. How'd you like that in your eyes? Anyway, okay, here's the ruler, right? We're going to do millimeters, not inches, okay? So what we're going to do from the edge of this we're going to take a couple of different measurements because people won't be happy. They'll go, but I'm telling you, I can see this with my eye, and I demonstrated in other videos. I don't know if you could see it or not, but hopefully you'll see more. So I'm going to run the ruler up to the edge of the plate till it hits the diff there. I don't know if you can see that. That's 62 millimeters. I'll get the torch out of the way. Can you see that? Have a good look, right? 62 mil to there. You want to go to the, let's touch the cup as well. That's 60 millimeters, as level as possible. It's quite level. That, look, I'll tell you what, that is dead set level to where it's hitting, and it's bang on 60 millimeters on the fold. I hope you can see that, right? And if I take the angle across to there, 62. Okay, slightly angled, a little bit longer, a little bit slightly different height between the two. Let's go to the other side of the vehicle and see what we find. Here we are, driver's side, right? Moment of truth. Well, there's 60 and we're not even anywhere near touching. Funny that. Let's move it further back. Okay, there's 60. There's 70 and we're only just touching. Safe to say close enough to 70. Let's do a fair measurement and go to the diff like we did on this one, right? So to the diff, 72 millimeters. And if we'll just spin this a little bit, hopefully it doesn't break. No, I'm just joking, it won't break with no load on it. As soon as there's any load on it though, it's at very high risk, okay? If we touch that one there, 70, right? So fair to say everyone can see that, 70 mil. Now, can everyone give me a round of applause? Yeah, because nobody else anywhere on any Prado, HILUX forum, anything has told you about this problem, right? And I did tell people 10 years ago, but like I said, not everybody listens and people move on and they just think this and they think that because this guy says stuff that's different to everybody else. Well, you know what? Sometimes when it's different, you got to be really careful because it could be true. And I got a lot of different information to what everybody else is telling you. So if you want to be on channel with the right information, like I said, and just have the opportunity not to miss it. Now, let's explain it in a bit more detail. It is my belief that if this diff was mounted correct, and people say, oh, you know, but you know, if you don't modify the suspension, it'll be okay. Okay, yeah, I'll agree with that. If you leave it stock standard length and there's no extra travel, you'll probably be okay. But I'm sure we would also agree that you've got 10 mil higher at the diff at this side, because we've seen that evidence, which puts this on more of an angle any day of the week, which actually helps the angle over this side, which is why a visual we can go, that looks good, it looks just like a Prado one, beautiful, right? This one, not so good, not looking good, you know, it's all angled up and all that sort of thing. All right, so there's a couple of things, right? In the past, there's been times where we've loosened off the diff, jiggled it around, and been able to get it down to a pretty, well, more level height. So that's something maybe you can try. But when we did it on this vehicle recently, as soon as we tightened it up, it went bang, straight back to where it was. So, solutions, you can put your cheap diff drop in. We've got the proper K-on diff replacement brackets. I've never installed them before. I don't know how well they work. I don't really know how much it drops it. So this is why we're taking some measurements, right? Now what I forgot to do is take that measurement to the bash plate. So let's do that. This one might be a little bit difficult to capture. We'll take a few measurements. I've got the light behind me on the bench, the camera on the tripod, and a tape measure. See, right? Here we go, you know. Lufkin, whatever. Right, to the floor. We're just gonna hang it direct down. Like this. This one here, I'll just show you what it is anyway, but it's not going to change anyway. We'll just, for argument's sake, it is very difficult to get a measurement because we've got the bend. You're going to have to trust me a little bit. 17, I'd say pretty close to 1710, right? We're going to do the same sort of estimate with the replacement plate. 1710 on the front part of the plate, that's not going to change. The transition, when we put the diff drop, and the diff drop, it's the next plate that comes down a bit, right? So it's more we're going to be possibly interested in this area about here. So again, we've just got that tape as level as, you know, and we're about the same. It's exactly the same measurement. 1710, right? It's kind of like the folds on 1715, but by the time you straighten it out, yeah, it'd be 1710. My money's saying 1710. Difficult to show you, but you should have enough trust in me now, what I showed you already so far in the video, that my information is good. Okay, let's take some measurement about here. Right, can you see that, right? It's about 1710, same thing. And what I actually did, I looked at the on the ground there. When it was on the ground, I actually took a look at the, you know, at how level it was, and this plate here, it actually looks very, very level. Anyway, so like I said, plate was really level on a visual. I'm standing here at the front of it, and I'll tell you what, it's probably just the K-on thing because it is so level, it's not funny. I'm really impressed with this, and I'm reluctant to change it, but then I'm reluctant to leave the diff, the angles and everything the way it is, right? So what we're going to do now, we've given all the measurements, right? Hopefully you can remember what they are. The main thing we've demonstrated, the 10mm difference over this side here. That's why if you do your own research on your HILUX groups or your own experience, you'll find the driver's side breaks more than any others. No, it's not all these other reasons. And then some people are saying, oh, you just got to put longer shafts and this shaft and that. Mate, the best shafts are the genuine shafts, and you cannot put a truly longer shaft on a vehicle because it won't fit. You know, it just won't fit. What I mean is, you know, it's got to go between the diff there and the bearing here, right? You put a longer shaft, when it comes back to level, it's got to be pressing, causing problems. You know what I mean? So when it goes down, that inner joint is slid out, and when it goes up, it's slid in. It's already got the correct size shaft. You can only put a longer shaft. If it was staying like this all the time, then you could put a longer shaft, but it doesn't change the angle. Longer shaft doesn't change the angle, okay? It'll allow it to go longer, more angle. It's still gonna bust. Okay, so longer shaft does not fix the problem, and if you think it does, you've got lucky so far, blah, 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 whatever. Let's not argue about it. You know what you know, I know what I know, bada bing. Let's get these plates off, eh? I suppose just for the people want to know how easy these are. Look, are we gonna take off, I'm just thinking, we'll just take off this middle one at the moment. I think we can do that. I'm not sure if we can get the middle one off. I think we can, yeah. But it's so easy, it's just 1, 2, and then the other 2 bolts are, you know, recessed in there. That's the front plate. So even if you take the whole lot off, easy. But we're going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4, and just drop this plate. It's a 3-piece plate, and it all comes off separately. Happy days. All right. So fact, you need to loosen off the rear 2 bolts of the front plate to be able to slide this one out. As you can see, this was all clean a few days ago. As I said, been out on the paddock, bit of grass and whatever. So you get that. But what we're going to do now is use the ruler to take some measurements from the mounting points, right, here and here, because that'll give you an idea of the possibilities of the clearance you might use. So we've got, this is the original plate here, okay, we've got the diff drop brackets, and of course we've got the replacement plate. The rest of the plate's the same, see? This is still there. These 2 front bolts, not touched. These 2 bolts here we loosened off to get this plate out. The rear plate's still there. This is the part that you replace if you decide to do this diff drop, or you do the diff drop and order the correct one in the first place, right? Now, for us, we did the suspension. We had a suspicion what might happen. We got out there, we hammered it. We made it happen just like it did last time when we had HILUX back in 2011, and did exactly the same thing under virtually exactly the same circumstances. So let's take a measurement. So this one, let's see if the ruler fits through the hole, and it does, beautiful. That makes things easy for us, right? So we can sit the ruler there like that and go. All right, you can see there you've got, take what, 2mm off 70? We'll call it 68, okay? Let's go over to this one. Not much in it, is there? Look, 71mm. So I'm pretty happy with that. Did I just measure that right? We better go check it again, because that's I'm not losing enough clearance there that it bothers me. This is actually too good. Right, yeah, it's definitely 71. And we're going to do the measurements on the vehicle once it's all back together. So slow process. We've got to get all this gear on there and all that. So be patient. We're being patient to spend the time to put the video together. It's definitely what? Worst case scenario, what? 67, so 4mm. Okay, now what's going on? So that's the front end where it joins up, right? Yeah, it's got to be. I'm just trying to, I'm thinking out loud here. Yeah, because that's got the oil change spout thing, right? So in case you didn't know about that, when you take your sump plug out here, it runs down here, straight down, look, straight down. Straight down into your drain tray, instead of all over your cross member. How good's it? Because your cross member's here at this side, right? How good's that? And that's what this is over here. Obviously, we've got to install that one onto this plate, if that's what we're doing. Okay, now, this plate, it's flat, okay? So this is where there's some difference, but this is at the rear end. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what it's going to look like on the vehicle, but obviously this is where there's going to make a big difference. There's the hole again. Oops. All right, that's about 20mm, right? This one is a lot more. That's saying 50mm, right? But yeah, I'm not sure. So it must curve. They've got this. The mounting thickness is about the same, right? So if I tip the plate up like that. So it's just, it's kind of like a bit of a hill. So it could go all right. That's why we took a few of those measurements. What were they? I can't remember, but we'll remember when we put the tape measure up there again, because I'm pretty sure the front here will be very similar, about 5mm difference, and up here is going to make the difference. So stay tuned. we're going to get in there, follow these instructions. Never done it before. Oh, pretty straightforward. You know, we've loosened off all these bolts before. We know where they go. You take out the big bolt, you take out these. This one, I don't think we've taken that off before, but we'll change these brackets over. We'll get this new on there and show you all the new measurements, all right? So you relax and we'll get the hard yards done. All right, so a quick look before we put the bash plate on. The solution's in place. The diff has come down, I reckon, it's about a 30mm drop, I believe. The good news is the way they've engineered it, obviously, is not to copy the old ones and lower it, but just re-engineer whole new brackets so the diff does sit nice and level. So if you compare this is at full extension, the CVs now, that one, actually really good. Probably don't need to go quite that far down, but that's good. And this one, really good, just like even with the other side, instead of being worse because of the angle. So I know it'd be hard for you to see, but if you see the bottom of the drive shaft to those, you know, I know it's hard, but I'll move it here. I mean, we'll take the measurements. It'll be different with the new bash plate, but we'll take the measurements to show how even it is with the K-On proper engineered brackets. Yeah, I'm picking on the Toyota HILUX made in Thailand front diff brackets that don't actually bolt up to keep the diff level, but you can see these K-On replacement. Beautiful. Let's get the bash plate on. All right, well done. Thanks for your patience. We're going to take the final measurements. Okay, now if K-On, you know, this mile up here, kon.com.au, if their engineering is as good as what I say it is, if I take a measurement from the replacement bash plate, which is flat and level, it's going to be different measurements because it's got the diff drop brackets, which bolted up quality. The diff looked really level. We didn't take any measurements because we think the best way to do it is from the bash plate. So let's get in there. Here we go, driver's side. Okay, driver's side. You're going to be able to see this. Okay, let's go straight to let's get the drive shaft. That flat section pointing straight down, that bit at the bottom there, like that. Okay, let's go straight till we hit that. I'll say that's 59mm to that fold right on that edge up there where you may or may not be able to see, right? 59. I'll go to the diff this way. I'll go on a slight angle. I'll say that's 61, okay, as level as I can get it. So 59, 61. Over the other side we go. Okay, let's get in, passenger side. Turn this drive shaft again so it's pointing downward. It's certainly not 10mm difference. I'll call that exactly the same, 59. I was going to call 58.5 on the other side. Anyway, close enough to say that's 59 as well. Right on the fold, that's right on 59. And 61, can you see that? Within a millimetre or spot on side to side. That's how vehicles should be engineered. Okay, so, you know, Thailand, Toyota, whatever. Let's take the final measurement. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just amazed at how these guys can engineer this stuff and make such quality stuff that just bolts up so easy. You know, like, and there's so many companies that can't do anything near it. Anyway, we've got that tape measure again. Remember, we're going to have lost some clearance, definitely. So at the end, we're near the end now. We're nearly there. Thanks for your patience. We'll just take these measurements, right? Now, I don't remember what they were, but I'll bring it up here again, and we should have the car hasn't moved on the hoist. So I would say it would have been the 710, 715. So it's right on the bend at 715. If you straighten out 710, does that ring a bell? 710, everyone's going, yeah, that was it, 710. So 710 is the number we're using. That hasn't changed. This is the same bash plate that's been hammered on the Rocky truck, literally called Rocky truck in Talangi. Now what we're going to see here is you're going to see the same clearance from the bash plate at the transmission here. Yep, same at that plate. But as we come forward, this is where we lose. Now I'm going to give you the worst news first, bad news. So the good news is, well, actually, through the middle, you're not going to get hung up on anything. Over this side, actually, you know, you've got about 20 to 30mm between the plate and the bracket. So this side, if people, I don't know if that'd be too hard to do that with steel, would it? To make one side different to the other? Like, depends whether you wanted it to look symmetry, like even, or whether you just want maximum clearance. But yeah, get on with the measurement, right? Everyone's hanging out for this measurement, right? That would be 16, what was this here? 1710 we were saying, 1710, so this one would be 1690 if I straighten that out, maybe a bit less. I'll say 20, we're going to go 1680 it's more than 85 but less than 90, so let's say about 25 mil, somewhere like that, about 25 mil loss. Let's do the same thing over this side as well, just to see. Obviously it'll be the same, but you know, you might be able to see more, or you might want to just, yeah, I'm going 85, right? 85, so 25 mil. So what it does, it gradually goes to there, and then it gradually goes back up again, okay? So the only place you've lost the clearance is that lowest part there. You've got about 10 mil under the diff here. The fold is actually behind the diff, so the fold could come forward a little bit. I'm, you know, being fussy here. I'm being fussy. I like it. This is ultimate reliability. If you've got longer extension in your suspension, or you wanted a 3-inch lift and you've got really high springs, you should make sure you've got that down travel available. And if you do that, then this is what you need. You need a proper diff drop like this, in my opinion. Okay, if you want to keep your reliability, if you've got a 3-inch lift for good looks and you're never going off road, don't worry about it. But don't go jumping over speed humps, because when those wheels drop and the suspension tops out, it's going to damage that shock absorber. That's why you need that extra down travel when you raise the suspension. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's quite complicated how much you do and don't need. But this is a video for the purposes of, you know, let's have a final look at the fit up. Okay, so you can just see this is the lowest point here where it goes around the diff. It's actually quite smooth. There's nothing really you're going to get hung up on anyway. You're going to scrape that over. That's what it's there for. It's very strong. We'll get out there and give it a good test out. Before long, that section there will be looking like this section here. So stay tuned on both of our YouTube channels if you don't want to miss this information, the accurate information that you can't get anywhere else with the solution. We've already got dirt up there in that area. Can't stand it when it gets dirty up there. That's where you get leaks and whatever. But anyway, you get that. It's going to get a lot worse. Now, there's a little breather hose you got to replace. If you do this, make sure you don't yank on the wires too hard for the ADD. Right, that's this, see this wire here, right? You got to make sure that's all good while you're doing it. Support it with your jack. It's quite fiddly. What's the fiddly part? Okay, so it looks impossible to get to the bolts on the pinion mount here, but it's not. You just got to take your time, do it in order. You'll get to this bolt here. Once you loosen off, you got to take your bash plate off. That's one other thing they could do. They could put a hole in the bash plate there so there's access to the 10 mil. The good news is there's no access, so it can't fall out. But yeah, you just reuse the bushes on the back one here. You can see as we have. Obviously we're yet to road test it and get it out on the tracks and do that, but it's looking bloody good. And happy days. We don't have to worry about breaking a drive shaft again. Final look at those angles, right? Absolute, look at that, absolutely beautiful. To the point that, in all honesty, this is probably set up for worst case scenario suspension, but the Dobinson's lengths, in my opinion, are good. But the biggest problem was the diff being on an angle to start off with. So I would actually like just to correct that and give it a little bit more. So in my opinion, just my opinion, I would probably not lower the diff quite as much. I'd probably take it up about another 10 mil and adjust the bash plate accordingly so that the plate underneath here, see how it's got a bit of clearance? I want no clearance. I want it rubbing. I don't care. It doesn't. I've seen cars like that before and I'm like, oh, wouldn't that vibrate, make noise? No, it doesn't. That diff doesn't move. It's just sitting there. It doesn't matter if it's rubbing, because personally I want maximum clearance here. You know, you can put bigger tires on, but now you've got to go up a tire size, and that wouldn't even get, you got to go to 33, from 31s to 33s, okay, to get 25 mil back. So I have to go up to 33s to get the clearance that I had before underneath the middle of the vehicle from the tires. Now, does that matter? To some people, they're going to go, that's why they put 33s in the first place, right? I didn't want to have to do that. So I'm here, I'm not here to sell you the bash plate, I'm here to show you the solution. One of the solutions, it's a quality solution, but I'm going to tell you the truth about it as well and what I don't like about it. And remember, the best part I haven't done an oil change yet, so I'm going to go and do that right now. I'm going to get in here. This might need a bit of adjustment because that's what you do once you bolt it on, right? I'm going to do an oil change now just for the hell of it. That'll be a separate video, so subscribe, turn the bell on, and we'll see if it makes a mess. Catch you on the next one. Hopefully that's been helpful. See ya.